Today, I'm in a police interrogation.
Yesterday.
I've been talking to officers and detectives. They sent me to a shrink at one point. They asked me all these questions, and I'm being as helpful as I can given the situation. I don't know what else to do at this point. I'm sitting across from a grizzled detective. He's looking at some file that's in his hand, and then back at me. And I'm not sure how any of this works. Is he waiting for me to talk? Is he trying to figure out what to say? I broke the tense silence. I didn't kill my daughter. I just didn't. I don't know how to make you guys understand that. I loved my daughter Miranda. She was my world. I don't know where she got that bottle. I was distressed on the verge of weeping. I get that these times, in these tragedies, you have to look at the closest people to the victim. I get that. I paused in an effort to contain myself. But that's what this was, a tragedy. I should have seen it coming, given everything else that's happened in her young life, but I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't a strong enough father for her. The detective shifted his position but remained silent. The look in his eyes changed at first. I felt like he was a pit bull ready to chew into me, but now he had the eyes of a puppy looking at me with sorrow and empathy. I wasn't strong enough of a father, I repeated before breaking down and weeping. I wasn't there for her. I didn't see the signs, and she took her life. I was outright bawling at this point. Can we be done here? Can I go? I have things I need to take care of. He nodded. Truly sorry for your loss, Mr. Biggs. I have a daughter of myself, and I could not imagine being in your situation. He gave me a friendly handshake and a sympathetic look. If there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to call. I took the business card he had extended to me, thanked him, and headed for the door.
Yesterday.
Today's the day that all my work over the last year pays off. The culmination of everything that's been building since that day. 1 year ago, my wife was killed. She was always insisting on going out. She loved partying and having a good time. She was such an amazing woman and wanted to experience everything that life had to offer. I loved her for that. On one Saturday evening, she begged me to go to this fancy new dance club that recently opened, but I was exhausted. I had worked a 60-hour week and I wanted to have a beer and relax. She understood and asked if I minded if she went. I didn't. A little peace and quiet is what I needed, so she went dancing and I settled in with a six-pack and some television. I was 2 beers down and 45 minutes in when Miranda, my daughter, came in the house. It was 11, so I didn't really pay too much attention. She started rooting around in the kitchen when her cell phone rang. I winced a little. I knew exactly what was coming. Hey, girl! It started from there. The conversation got louder and louder. I turned up the TV a few times, but it didn't seem to help. She never really thought about others. I got off the couch and strolled towards the kitchen. Stopping in the doorway, I stood there and waited for her to notice me. It seemed futile. She was in her own little world. I cleared my throat loudly, loud enough to get her attention over her conversation in her phone. She spun quickly, startled because she didn't notice me until then. It's 11. I had a hard week paying for that damn phone. Would you mind keeping it down a little? I asked. It was a question, but it was directed in the same manner as a demand. Oh, sorry, Daddy, of course. She was chipper about it. As I turned towards the living room, I heard her tell the person on the other end that I said she was too loud and she would just text them. Thank God. She was going to keep it down. I went back to my television and I polished off the other 4. I looked at the clock and it was midnight, so I went to bed. The next morning, that was the morning that I had begun to put this plan together, I woke up to my phone shattering the serenity of my bedroom. It was jarring and pulled me right out of my sleep. I scrambled for my phone and hit the button. Mr. Biggs, the voice called through my phone. I'm sorry, I'm looking for a Mr. Biggs. This is Mr. Biggs. I was hesitant to give my information, but a name couldn't hurt. Mr. Biggs, this is regarding your wife. Can you get to the hospital? My mind immediately began racing. I barely heard what the man was saying. I was already on my way to the hospital. I got to the emergency room and told them who I was looking for. I was informed that she was in operation. I waited for her. I paced the room. I started praying to God. I made a few phone calls. I felt so helpless. I got information about what had happened. It was a shooting. Some guy just showed up at the club. When the man tried to get in, the bouncer stopped him, and that's when he pulled the weapon and began firing. My wife was one of the people who got hit by a bullet. The man got into a gunfight with the police, and the coward decided to just shoot himself instead of letting the cops arrest him. After a couple of hours later, a doctor appeared in the doorway and called my name. I met him at the door, and he talked to me. He explained that the bullet had done too much damage on the way in and was lodged in a place that it could not be removed. She died on the operating table. I was distraught and broken. I didn't know how I'd be able to pick up the pieces and move on. I didn't know if I could. And when I got home, Miranda was waiting there. She'd gotten the news about her mother, and she looked at me for strength. She was looking at me for answers and support. "What are we going to do, Daddy?" she asked through tears. "What am I going to do? Why did this happen?" I couldn't believe how selfish she was. I had lost my wife, the reason I wake up every day. "I don't know, goddammit. I don't know what you're going to do," I snapped at her. And she began to wail. Every day it got worse. She got worse. She became more and more bratty, more and more annoying, always talking back to me. She became more and more needy. She became reliant on me for everything. She quit a job. She stopped going out with her friends. She was always at the house. She was always needing something from me. She was always needed a piece of me. Well, what about my needs? What about what I need? I had gotten fed up with her. I started staying out of the house more. I snapped at her when she tried to talk to me. I was short and yelled often. She said that I was hell trying to live with her. Someone should have told her what it was like to live with Little Miss Goddamn Princess. It wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Truth be told, I never even wanted kids. I was happy without any of them. It was my wife who wanted to get pregnant and have a kid. And God, I didn't tell that woman no. I went along. I had a baby with her, for her. I did my best to love the child, but it was because of her. And then she left me. This whole thing was just dumped into my lap, and I didn't know how to raise a teenager, and for the rest of her life, I was going to be expected to take care of her. I couldn't do that. I didn't ask for any of this. I never wanted any of this. It just wasn't fair. Over this last year, I've managed to wear her down. I've done my best to slowly whittle away at her self-esteem. I gradually broke her little spirit. She was soft and weak, and it really didn't take that much to make her fall apart. It was pathetic. She was pathetic. I didn't even have to come outright and be blunt. All I had to do was make subtle comments, ignore her when she needed support, casually blame her when something went bad in her life. The real piece of de resistance was cutting off the Wi-Fi when she really seemed to need it. I cut that little bitch off from the thing she seemed to love the most. I cut her off from the people and the support that she found online, and she drifted away from her friends, and I slowly convinced her they didn't like her. She spiraled into depression pretty quick, and I did my best to keep her there. So now here I stand. A fresh bottle of whiskey just sitting on the counter, beckoning to be drank, along with an unmarked bottle of very strong narcotic painkillers. I know she's at her breaking point, so with opportunity, I'm sure that selfish little brat will finally end it. Just to be sure, though, give her one last more little push, a note with the items left for her. One I'd have to grab before dialing the police tonight. Why don't you do the world a favor and join your mother? Love, Daddy.